The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hello everyone and welcome to Live and Learn. I am your host, Jerry Renaud. Today we have a wonderfully fun segment because we get to talk about food. Joining us is Jill Engel. She's Aging Partners Service Coordinator. Always has great things to talk about and a great little recipe. Don't go away.
Hi everyone. As the population ages, the need for physicians who are trained to understand aging issues is key. Joining us today is Dr. Elizabeth Harlow, Associate Professor of Geriatric Medicine and Program Director for UNMC's Geriatric Medicine Fellowship. Stay tuned.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. On my segment today, we're going to be talking about the concept of accessible and universal and equitable design in buildings and your environment. Stay tuned, it's a good segment.
Lincoln is fortunate to have its own publicly owned power system, which is called LES, as you may know. It offers several programs to users. So I'm Barb Tyler, and I'll be talking with Jay Stoa today. He's an energy specialist with LES, and he will explain all the programs that are available and some home energy saving tips.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hello everyone and welcome to Live and Learn. I am your host, Jerry Renaud. Today we have a great show. It's a show where we get to talk about food, and I always am interested in talking about food. We have a very familiar guest for you here on Live and Learn. It is Jill Engel, and Jill is at Aging Partners, and she is the Aging Partners Service Coordinator. I want to make sure I get that right. Jill,
Yes.
Thanks for coming by today.
Thanks for having me.
It's always fun to talk about food.
It is.
Always a challenge to try to eat right and enjoy food at the same time, but we know that we can do that. So we're going to talk about some of those things today, and you've brought a couple of fun little recipes for us.
Yeah.
And we'll get to those at the end of the show. So we encourage you to maybe keep a pen and a piece of paper close by, because we're going to talk about all kinds of things that I think you will want to save. Okay, first things first, just a little quick review. I always think it's good to talk about what should appear on your plate
Yes.
for most meals if it's going to be healthy.
Yes. So the My Plate.
Yes, my plate.
Yes, My Plate is a visual representation of how we should aim to structure our meals. We want to try to incorporate a variety of different types of foods. So making our plates half with fruits and vegetables, and then incorporating lean proteins, whole grains, and then low-fat dairy as well. So we want to try to incorporate a variety of different foods every day, just to get the most nutrients that our body needs, and focusing ones that are colorful in nature. The more colorful the plate is, the more nutrients it contains.
So burger and fries misses a few of those opportunities to have a healthy.
Put in some lettuce and tomatoes.
There we go. Okay, so they put lettuce and tomato on it. Well, at least it's the start. So yeah, I had a nutritionist tell me one time, said, half your plate better be fruits and vegetables.
That's the goal.
And so that's always a good goal too.
Absolutely.
So we encourage you to try to do that. Okay, as we talk about food, I wanted to try to do something a little bit different today. So what I found, and it was through AARP, a list of 25 foods, really, that you can eat and not gain weight. And I thought it would be sort of fun to walk through some of those foods. So if we could take a look at our list here. Berries is right at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Berries, why berries have, known for a long time they're pretty good for you.
Yeah, berries there's lots of different types of berries: strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. Berries are really high in antioxidants, which have been known to help promote health and reduce certain risks of developing cancer. So berries are high in antioxidants and low in calories, so they're a great addition to any meal or just as a snack.
Yeah, and the one nice thing I think about berries is that it also works with some other foods that we'll get to that are good for you and healthy for you and help extend your life. But you can put them on cereal in them. You can put them with yogurt.
Oatmeal.
You can have them in a snack. You can put them in a smoothie. All of those things. I know people sometimes worry about the sugar in berries.
Yeah, but So the berries contain a natural sugar, which is called fructose. That's going to be found in any of your fruits. It's just the fruit that's naturally found in there. There's no additional sugar that's added to it. So it's a healthy type of sugar.
Okay, very good. Okay, number 2 on our list is chickpeas. And this is probably not one that lots of people include. You can get it at restaurants a lot of times.
You can, and they're kind of fun to throw in. You can roast them in the oven or an air fryer, put some seasonings on there, and they're really good just to have as on top of a salad or as a snack. They're just crispy and easy to throw into a salad or meal.
Very cool. I'm going to try to incorporate those. Mushrooms are always good. Sometimes it's a challenge to try to figure out what to do with them unless you're putting them with a steak or something.
Yeah,
but there are fun things to do with mushrooms.
There are some fun things you can do with mushrooms, like you said, a steak, or you can incorporate into like a stir fry or part of a casserole or even a soup if you want to.
Very good. And what is it about mushrooms that make them so good for you?
Mushrooms it's just another type of vegetable. It's low in calories, high in fiber.
Very cool. Okay, celery. Celery is, I think everyone goes, oh, sure, celery, that's great. But you have to be careful with celery how you eat it, right?
You do. So celery is a great vegetable. It's actually 95% water, so mostly water. But by itself, it can be kind of bland. So like you mentioned, it's important to what you pair it with. So you can pair it with some peanut butter or some guacamole or some cottage cheese as part of a meal, and it's a good way to use it as a dip too.
Yeah, very good. Okay, popcorn, sort of the same scenario here. We all love popcorn, but you got to watch really what goes on it, right, and how it's fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. So popcorn by itself is a whole grain. It's a great option as a snack or part of a meal if you want. But you do have to watch what you pair it with the butters and the salt and sometimes the sugar comes in the flavored varieties.
Yeah, the flavored ones gets the orange all over your fingers, and they're so good, but probably not great for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, number 6 on our list, grapefruit. Let's talk about grapefruit because I love grapefruit, but there are also some issues.
Yeah, grapefruit is a citrus fruit, and we do have to be a little bit cautious on how much we're consuming grapefruit, especially if we're taking certain medications, such as like statin medications. It can affect how the body absorbs and breaks down some of those. So just making sure that we're paying attention to how often we're eating it and pairing it with certain medications.
Right. Okay. Spinach is number 7 on our list. Lots of children don't seem to like spinach. I mean, it has this reputation, I guess, of being bad and tasting awful. I personally love spinach, but...
Me too. Spinach it's high in iron, it's high in antioxidants. It's considered one of the best types of lettuces that you can have. I personally like to throw it in with a salad or a mixture with the salad. You can certainly cook it as well. That's not always the most well received sometimes.
But that's the best way.
It is, I agree. But throwing it in with the salad is a great way to incorporate it.
Yeah, and you also mentioned to me at one point that the darker the leaf, the better it is in terms of a salad.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, the more colorful our plate is, the more nutrients it contains. When we're looking at different types of salads, iceberg lettuce versus romaine versus spinach is going to have the most nutrients, so it's the better option if we can.
All right, we'll have to learn to eat spinach more. Cottage cheese, you mentioned cottage cheese earlier, that it's one of those things that is nutritious and you can do some fun things with it. You can. Cottage cheese is a great dairy option. Like I mentioned earlier, I like to dip it with celery. You can mix it with some fruit, incorporate it as part of a meal as a protein source. One thing with cottage cheese, though, is to watch the sodium content because there is some hidden sodium in there. Right. So comparing different labels and making informed decisions. Okay. Number 9, cauliflower. I know sometimes people don't like the taste of cauliflower. Yeah, cauliflower is it's a cruciferous vegetable, so it is also high in antioxidants. I like to pair it with broccoli, so that way it can kind of offset some of the flavor, and incorporate it as a raw vegetable or as part of a hot meal. Okay. Moving on to carrots. Carrots are, I just love carrots, but some people, again, have an aversion to carrots, and particularly cooked carrots.
Yeah, my kids are the same way. They only like raw carrots. So, yeah, I like to throw carrots in as part of raw vegetables. But I also like to throw cooked carrots in with soups or casseroles, kind of sneak it in that way as well.
Okay, let's talk about number 11 on our list, and that is oatmeal, and that's one that we've heard about for a long time, is very good for you, but there's all different kinds of oatmeal out there, and again, you got to be careful about what you put on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a really good point. There's lots of types of different types of oatmeal. Probably the easiest one is the instant oatmeal, and only takes 3 minutes in the microwave, so it's very easy. The biggest thing with this is to compare your nutrition facts labels. A lot of times the instant oatmeal have added sugars to them.
Right.
So just compare labels. There are reduced sugar options available. And this is a great opportunity to pair it with some berries or some nuts to help just increase the nutritional content of it.
Yeah, and if you're going to have the real thing, it can be just a touch bland. You need to you need to put something with it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How about black beans? Black beans is I love black beans, but figuring out sort of what to do with them sometimes is interesting.
Yeah. Black beans are a great way to incorporate it into, like, I do it with like my Mexican dishes. With tacos and combine it with some meats. It's also a really good way to incorporate it into some soups as well as some casseroles, just to kind of get that extra flavor and texture in there while increasing the fiber content of the meal also.
I saw an interesting headline one time. It said, if you want to be healthy in 2025, substitute black beans for beef.
Yes.
Because it must have lots of protein in it as well.
It does. Black beans beans in general are a great source of protein as well as dietary fiber. So it's going to help keep you full and keep you full for longer.
Okay, how about lettuce? We talked a little bit about lettuce. Good stuff for you. You should have that salad every day, and again, the darker the green, the better.
Absolutely. And the lettuce is a great opportunity, like you said, with salad, to combine it with other types of fruits and vegetables. Throw in some tomatoes and some avocado and some black beans. Really good way just to combine it.
Right. We're going to run out of time. I'm a little worried, but pomegranate, I do want to talk about that one because it is so good for you, but it is a little tart, and you need to figure out something to do with it.
Yeah, and so with the juices, like the pomegranate juices, those are a good option, but they do have that added sugar to it to help contradict some of that tartness.
Okay, as we sort of dance through our list, broccoli we know has been good. Salmon we talk about for a long time. Orange, another good fruit that's out there. How about tofu?
Tofu is a great source of protein. It's a non-meat source of protein, so it's really good for vegans or vegetarians to incorporate. And tofu is nice because it takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with. So your spices, your sauces, that you add to it as a stir fry just takes on that flavor.
Right. Okay. How about we look at the last little group here before we run out of time. You can see kale is on there, eggs, tomato, brown rice cakes are sort of interesting. Skinless chicken breasts and Greek yogurt, and of course everybody knows about cucumbers. So, so take a look at this list, write down some of these things, and I think if you can start incorporating some of that stuff, it's great. You did bring a recipe along with us, so let's put this recipe up on the screen and just take us through it quickly if people would like to try this.
So this is a recipe called Slammin' Salmon. And it's a really easy recipe to incorporate with different types of spices and seasonings. And it also includes some lemon juice and balsamic vinegar. It has almost like a teriyaki kind of twist to it. I love to put this, you can bake it, you can grill it. I personally like to put it in my air fryer. It's a really easy way to cook it fast. And it only takes about 10-12 minutes to cook, and then it's done almost perfect every time.
Perfect. Boy, I am going to try it for sure. And I'll let you know how that goes.
Yes.
We have another list. We didn't have time to get to it. Maybe you'll come back and see us again, and we'll go through that list of the 25 foods that help you live longer. That's another fun list. Jill, thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Helping us eat healthier in 2025. And thanks to all of you for joining us. I am your host, Jerry Renaud. Stay safe, stay healthy, and remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
So, I'm playing with the dog, and I get this robocall from the Social Security Administration saying my card had been suspended and I had to call them back immediately. And that's when I remembered a tip from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Random robocall? This is a Social Security scam.
Recognize fraud sooner,
Robots.
so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Masters. It is a great pleasure to have with us Dr. Elizabeth Harlow. Dr. Harlow is an associate professor of geriatric medicine at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. She also serves as the program director for UNMC's Geriatric Medicine Fellowship. With that said, welcome Dr. Harlow.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for making the drive. Dr. Harlow, for this interview, are you right if I call you Liz?
That's just fine with me.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much. Now, before we get too far into our interview, because we're going to get into the whole medicine fellowship, do you think you could provide our viewers with some background about you, about yourself, where you're from, your education, all those key points?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm originally a Missouri girl. I was born and raised in Columbia, Missouri. I hope that most of y'all don't hold that against me too heavily.
Not one bit. It's a great town, great university.
So from there, I went and did my undergraduate work at Drake University in Des Moines, and then did my medical training at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, before coming up to University of Nebraska Medical Center for residency and for fellowship. Otherwise, as far as my family goes, my husband and I have been married for just over 20 years.
Wow.
We have 4 kids, ranging in age from 8 to 15. So I spend most of my life on the sidelines or in the bleachers.
That is really beautiful. And I had commented to you in an email, thanks to you and your husband for having kids, particularly with an aging population. The more children, the better.
You know, doing what I can to help.
Right.
Just to help out a little bit.
Well, thank your husband as well. Grateful to him. And thank you for making the decision to travel north. So Missouri, Georgia, and now to Nebraska.
Yeah, it's cold here.
It's a little cooler, but it could be worse.
It could be worse. My husband's from northern Minnesota, like about an hour south of Canada, and so he thinks it's lovely here.
I bet he does.
so
I bet he's in shorts
most
year
of the
round.
time. Most of the time.
Very good. So, you know, I think it's interesting as a geriatrician, and you'll hear people talk about geriatrics and what is it? Could you talk a little bit about what is a geriatrician, what is geriatric medicine, and what does it entail?
Sure. So the term geriatric medicine most broadly applies to any adults over the age of 65 seeking health care. More specifically, we think about areas that are more focused on issues that older adults tend to care more about. Things like maintaining quality of life, maintaining function, independence, and memory, for example. It turns out that most guidelines that are out there for direction for physicians don't really apply to folks over the age of 75. So most of my job is trying to help people navigate what the healthcare system looks like for them when those guidelines don't apply. And how do we take each individual person into account when we're thinking about what their next steps are in their healthcare.
So when it comes to training, and in terms of being a geriatrician, unlike oftentimes we think about pediatricians, right? What's the path? Is it medical school, 4 years of medical school, and then?
Yeah, so it's very similar in some regards to pediatrics. So there is it's 4 years of medical school, and then we do an adult medicine residency. So 3 years of adult medicine, which is either family medicine or internal medicine.
Okay.
And after that, there is a specialization, a couple of years. It is actually a fellowship trained, it's a fellowship trained subspecialty similar to GI or cardiology or any of the other subspecialties. But it's a 1 to 2 additional training years based in geriatric medicine, trying to think about the principles that are more specific to older adults and to caring for older adults.
Liz, how did you get involved in geriatrics? Because you certainly could have gone in any direction.
It's a great question. I had a wonderful mentor as a medical student who pulled me under his wing. And then, honestly, during my third year of medical school, I had this patient who was extremely sick and in the hospital and very delirious and confused, and then no one could figure out why. And as the medical student, I had more time to think about the patient because I only had a couple of patients to think about. And I said, well, we started this new medicine. Maybe that's what's going on here. And we stopped the medicine and the patient got better, and I was like, ooh, I fixed you. That was so fun.
What a discovery.
Like, I fixed you. And granted, it was probably the treatment of his other, whatever. I probably didn't fix him. But it was a really rewarding and wonderful experience to actually feel like I made a difference for this patient. So geriatric medicine combines some really complex medical care in addition to really just fantastic people. So phenomenal patients with wonderful stories and then really interesting medicine has made for a really wonderful career. And deeper than that, I grew up close to my grandparents. They're lovely people. Yeah. Watching them navigate the healthcare system was a challenge. And watching them navigate the healthcare system without the guidance of a geriatrician was very difficult. And so trying to make it so that other people don't have to go through that has been part of my journey.
Well, I think for some of our viewers who might fit into the qualifier of receiving geriatric medicine, there's got to be a great sense of encouragement knowing that there are people like you who want to make a difference in the world, particularly for people as they age. So I think it's interesting that students, and certainly the students we work with at the university who take gerontology courses, sometimes have a hard time imagining themselves as a geriatrician or going into some sort of geriatric health care. But once they get to you, tell me, what are some of the challenges in encouraging medical students to pursue a career? And then how do you get them to basically sign on the dotted line?
That's fair. So geriatric medicine is not something that is well known. It is not a career choice that is well known to most incoming medical students. It's not something that is on their horizon. It's not flashy. It's not super fancy. It's not ever going to be a television show where people talk about the joys of medicine being a geriatrician, despite the fact that I feel like there's a lot of joy in medicine being a geriatrician. So we kind of have focused on trying to increase students' exposure. And the University of Nebraska has a really wonderful program called the Enhanced Medical Education Tracks that allows for early exposure, and I think there's about 20 of them now, different areas. And when I talk to students about the Enhanced Medical Education Track and aging, I specifically talk about the fact that I don't care what you want to be when you grow up. I don't care if you want to be an ophthalmologist, I don't care if you want to be a urologist or a radiologist or a geriatrician, great, that we have things that we can teach you. Part of my hook for medical students is that I promise them that I will get them early clinical exposure because our patients are phenomenal and they love to teach. And so because so much of what we do in this EMIT program is teaching, it's a great opportunity for students to get in front of patients in real time and to actually talk with folks. And so I promise them that. And the goal here is not to create lots of little Liz Harlows running around because not ideal. But I think the idea is to send into the world radiologists and anesthesiologists and urologists who understand geriatric principles. Yeah, so I think that's kind of my goal when I think about the whole EMIT program and the basis for it.
How have students, so you said that you promise them the opportunity for earlier clinical experience. How have they responded?
So I continue to get really excellent feedback from our students. We have graduated several who have gone on to actually do geriatric medicine, which is lovely. And so we do spark an interest in many, but I have 2 anesthesia residents or students that graduated just last spring, and now they're anesthesia residents, and they're doing a project in how anesthesia affects older adults because they still really care about their geriatric patients. And so I think that's phenomenal. I get incredibly good feedback about the program and about allowing them this early clinical exposure. The joy here is that they go into their third year knowing what it means to talk to a patient and being comfortable talking to older adults, which is such a huge part of our patient population regardless of what we go into.
Absolutely. Well, I think of some of the students that have graduated from UNL who have taken gerontology courses who are just thriving in your company. So thank you for looking after them. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you sending them my way. They're lovely people.
Aren't they beautiful?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So for some of our viewers who might be watching this thinking, my grandson or my granddaughter is in medical school, or my son or daughter, how could they make connections with you in order to learn more about this program?
Absolutely. And so honestly, I think the first step is recognizing that it exists and understanding that geriatrics is a very rewarding and wonderful career choice, and that if you're thinking about this Emmett program in particular, absolutely go to there's an Emmett fair in the fall. We just took in our new group of Emmett students. They're in the second half of their first year. They're all going to start doing their longitudinal care experiences with me coming up in the next month or so, which is really fun. So it's just something to keep your eye open for, and certainly can reach out to me at any time. I'd be happy to talk with folks.
Excellent. Well, I know that our production team has been showing images of the students that you've worked with, and again, just wonderful people. Yeah. And they've also included the URL, so people could go to that particular website to learn more about the program and contacting you. So Liz, honestly, I could talk to you all day. You have such good energy, but I know that there's other people that need to do interviews. So last question for you. What gives you hope?
So I think, especially when thinking about geriatric medicine and thinking about what gives me hope in geriatric medicine, it is truly the connections that I'm making with students now and seeing the fruit of those relationships as they go out into the world, regardless of what they go into, knowing that they're going out into their respective medical careers, caring about the issues that are pertinent to older adults. It makes me feel better about the fact that at some point the goal is that we all age and that we all become older adults who need health care. So preparing the next generation of healthcare providers to care for me well and seeing the fruit of that training is really exciting.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, Liz, on behalf of all the geriatric patients that have had the good fortune of having you as their healthcare provider, as well as all the students that have been trained who are treating geriatric patients, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our heart for making a difference in the world.
Thank you very much. It's truly my pleasure.
Well, you're a good soul. Thank you. And to our viewers, remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
My kid has been asking for this hot new gaming thing, and I was like, okay, he had a birthday coming up anyway. So I finally find the video game online, in stock. Thing is, it was from this shoddy website full of typos. That's when I remembered a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Bogus website? This is a shopping scam. Got us matching t-shirts instead.
Recognize fraud sooner. He loves his. So your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachiya. I want to thank our good friends at Aging Partners and at LNK TV for producing this show today. It is a pleasure to work with such professional individuals. You know, my guest today is named Emily Cerny, and she's a professor, an assistant professor of interior design at the College of Architecture at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She specializes in what she calls inclusive design. And you know, each of us is probably just sort of a misstep or some sort of an accident or situation that might put us either permanently or temporarily to lose our mobility. And so Emily is doing work in this area, and we're going to talk about what she calls inclusive design. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So let's define some terms. You know, most of us are familiar with like handicapped or accessible design, but we've moved now towards what you call inclusive or universal design. So let's talk about that, how we made those steps.
Yeah. So everyone, like you said, is pretty much familiar with the term accessibility. And that stems from a lot of legislation that happened regarding the Americans with Disabilities Act. So the design standards for that were passed in 1990. So really looking at the built environment and how it can be better for those with disabilities. Unfortunately, a lot of that legislation was written for Vietnam veterans who had maybe no use of their legs but full upper body strength. So a lot of the laws and requirements that are still in place today are kind of outdated and not super helpful for a lot of people. So moving beyond accessibility, we move into universal design, which is trying to design spaces for the most people to be able to use them, no matter their ability.
Right.
And then I move into what I kind of consider a further step in inclusive design, where you're considering the needs of many and providing them equitable experiences. It might not be the same solution for every person, but trying to get them that equitable solution in the end so that they all can access.
I know you sent me a little cartoon or drawing that you use with your classes with students that kind of define that. And why don't you walk through those 4 little scenarios there?
So the first one, starting with reality, which is something we really always need to consider of people have different barriers in place and might not be able to start in the same situation as others. So our reality is starting with someone literally in the hole, someone who has more than enough access to see the game happening beyond the fence, and then a person in a wheelchair who cannot see. So the reality is starting with people start at all different levels, and the built environment is very much that way for a lot of people. Then we move into equality. So equality is providing every person the same accommodation, the same option. But as we see in the graphic, only 2 of the 3 users can actually see the field beyond with an equal solution. So then we move into equity. And this is, again, providing a different solution for different people, but the end goal is the same for every person to be able to access the same thing. So the first person, they don't need a physical accommodation. They can see over the fence as long as they're on the ground. The next person has that little step, and then the person in the wheelchair is given a ramp. So different solutions, but an equitable solution. And then the final one, which we would love to move into, and I think this is a challenge for a lot of designers, is into justice or removing barriers. So removing the thing that is preventing accessibility in the first place. Right. So removing that very tall fence and providing a different solution that allows everyone to see without even needing accommodations.
Right. Well, I know in my intro I talked about each of us, unfortunately, is just a misstep away from needing an accommodation. And in my experience, I had to have this little minor ankle surgery that required me to be on crutches for 6 weeks and have a boot and everything. And it made me realize that my parking lot that was 5 blocks from my building and having to use the ramp on the back door, and because I was on the 3rd floor, and for a while my building didn't even have an elevator. We finally did get one. But the hard part for me was opening doors.
Yes.
Like, we didn't have the buttons, and when you're on crutches and doors at the university or fire doors and they're super heavy, it really opened my eyes and made me really appreciate the situation that people that are permanently in that situation have, but also, I guess, appreciate the work that folks like you do to help alleviate that.
Yeah, a lot of us don't realize that we're, one ankle injury or a car accident or even just from aging, one day away from possibly facing some sort of disability.
Right.
And it's not to have a doom and gloom outlook at all. But I think accepting that reality, we tend to have more empathy and think about people in those different situations, whether a mobility issue is permanent or temporary. Like you said, really getting into the shoes of someone.
Right.
Dealing with that on a day-to-day basis makes you think differently.
It really does. It really did open my eyes. A lot of our audience for the show, our target audience is a 55 plus community, and I know for a lot of us, we're living in houses or situations that were built a long time ago and maybe don't. Well, so what are some of the things that you would recommend you know, an older population or even just a non-older population
Yeah.
think about in terms of adapting their built environment, or if you're building a new house or something, what are some things people should be thinking about?
Yeah. I think you should be thinking about those solutions anytime. So I'm in my 30s and I'm thinking about them now, just because, again, not a doom and gloom outlook, but just being prepared. It's better to be prepared for those situations before you need them, rather than not having those in place when you do need them. So for those of us in homes that are older and might have stairs or different things, trying to remove barriers is the biggest thing. So removing tripping hazards such as rugs, increasing lighting levels. Our eyes deteriorate as we age and our vision yellows, so having plenty of light, bright light, to be able to see in our environments is great. Grab bars are huge. I know they're not the prettiest, but they're very useful, and making sure that those are in place before you need them is fantastic. I have grab bars in my shower and I use them every day. I don't need them right now, but I also want to be in the practice of using them for if and when that time comes.
Right, right. I know that, I know a situation where a person I know, he slipped in the shower and he went through the glass door. And luckily he wasn't badly cut, but it was a real, I mean, it was a mess. But it has made me rethink, should I have glass doors on my shower? Is that, you know, I mean, every time you hear about that kind of thing, it does make you rethink that kind of thing. I know as a designer and a teacher, you're teaching students how to think that way, and what are some of the things that you've done to like maybe get students in the experience of designing with clients rather than for clients?
Yeah, so you just said it, meeting with those populations that they're designing for. So a lot of times our students are fairly insulated in college, and they don't get to meet the people that they would be theoretically designing for, whereas in the field as a designer, I got to meet with my clients, you know, all the time, and they're the ones driving the design. So it's really important to expose students to the populations that they're designing for, so that they really get to understand what those populations need. And yeah, designing with them, not just for them. You know, as 22-year-old college students, they can say, oh yeah, I'm gonna design the solution for someone 55 plus, but unless they speak to someone of that demographic, they're not gonna truly understand what those users need. And what their lived experience is like. So that makes better designers when we design with users and design with empathy.
Right. Oh, I like that, design with empathy. I know that you and I have talked about, you know, designing like a physician's office or a hospital situation, and how there's, you know, ways to make things safe, but maybe not very attractive. But then making, you know, trying to, I mean, safety would be the priority, and being able to keep something clean or something, but there's also ways to make an environment welcoming and healing and less unpleasant.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
As interior designers, we're charged with protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the public, but we also are considering human behavior. We're considering how people feel in space. In the US, people spend upwards of 90% of their time indoors. So making sure that we aren't just tolerating our space, but we're enjoying it, and it's promoting the things that it's intended to do. So like in healthcare environment, it's promoting healing, making people feel good, not that they have to go to the doctor, but that they actually look forward to the spaces that they're occupying.
Well, it's also not, it's how people use space. You know, you can design something, and if people don't use it, it's kind of like, wow, that was not very effective. So it's knowing how they use space and why they use it would be really interesting. That's an interesting thing. So let's talk about how you got interested in this field. I mean, you talk about young people that don't think about, you know, this aspect of it, but you know, why did you become passionate about it?
Yeah. So my interest in accessible design really started from personal experience. So my stepfather, Mike Vinkovich, was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS, as a lot of us know it. And he was a veteran, and we were able to build onto our home to accommodate his needs as his physical condition deteriorated. And as we were building this addition and looking at all of the requirements, they were the exact opposite of what he needed. So a lot of the codes, like I mentioned, were designed for someone in a wheelchair with full use of their arms. He had no use of his arms, but his legs were incredibly strong. So it really didn't make a lot of sense to me why we were required to do certain interventions when they didn't make sense for him, and they didn't make sense for my mom as his full-time caregiver as well. So that really sparked my interest in accessibility and sparked my graduate work in looking at if designers really go above the minimum when it comes to accessibility requirements, or if not. My research found that typically we don't go above the minimums, and in a lot of cases the minimums are not truly accessible for a lot of users. So it's my goal with my research and in teaching, again, teaching with empathy and helping our young designers to be more empathetic and think about those lived experiences of people, and to do better, to not just meet the minimums, but to truly design better environments for all people of all abilities.
So are there any efforts to try and change the minimums?
Yes, I think in the universal design movement has helped a lot with that. Unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to budget and building constraints. So really it's just advocating, informing designers why the minimums aren't enough, and just trying to get the codes changed.
Yeah. Does it make you crazy to go in a new building and say, this is not a good idea?
All the time, yes.
Oh my gosh, that must be frustrating. Mm-hmm. I know that because a lot of older buildings, they have, their idea of accessibility is just put a ramp on the back door, but that is so it's not welcoming, and I guess it's, I don't want to say better than nothing, but I guess.
Yeah, when it comes to compliance, it is better to have an accessible option than to not have any at all. To exclude people from public spaces, one, it's not legally allowed, and it's just, I don't think it's ethical. It's not right.
Right.
But when we are adding accessible options to buildings, trying to make them as equitable as possible. So like the graphic showed, not just in providing the entry to the building, but an equitable experience. Right. So rather than slapping a ramp on the back of the building, trying to integrate it into the front of the building so that users walking up the stairs would have the same experience as users entering through a ramp.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. We're out of time. You and I could chat about this for a long time, and we have in the past. So thank you for being my guest today. I really appreciate it. And I would like to take the opportunity to welcome, or to tell our viewers that it's never too late to live and learn.
I was doing some shopping and got a pop-up on my laptop. Computer had a virus. So I called the number on the page, and the guy on the phone wants to take control of my screen to sort it out. Then I remember a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Control my screen. This is a tech support scam. Thankfully, my order still went through.
Recognize fraud sooner so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Lincoln is fortunate to have its own publicly owned electric system, which is Lincoln Electric System, and that offers several programs to their users. Hi, I'm Barb Tyler, and I'll be talking with Jay Stoa, an energy specialist, to learn more about the programs they offer and home energy saving tips. So since the first cold wave hit Lincoln a few weeks ago, I wanted to have a conversation as to how LES customers can manage their electrical use. So let's start talking about bills. Everybody loves those. Jay, can you tell us how LES charges for electricity and what areas can be influenced by using less electricity?
Sure. So when you get your electric bill, there's going to be 3 charges on your electric bill. And it's going to be broken up what I call our fixed cost and our variable cost. So the fixed cost is going to be like our customer charge, and that fee is going to be related to meter reading, our billing, and any customer-related services. So now the facility charge, so that's going to be the cost of building and maintaining our infrastructure from the generation, transmission, all the way down to the distribution to our homes. So, and actually what we do find is that's probably one of the higher costs on our electric bill is going to be the facility charge. So the variable cost is going to be for the amount of energy you use during your billing period. So our energy resources that we get our energy from is going to be like we get coal, natural gas, and then our renewable energy. Our renewable energy profile is going to be, we have some wind, solar, and then hydropower. So really the influence is going to be on reducing your energy consumption to offset some of these costs that you're seeing on your electric bill.
So I understand they have a program specifically to help residential and business customers, helping them to invest more in energy efficient equipment. So can you tell us more about that program and how customers can get involved?
Yes, we do. So we have our Sustainable Energy Program, and really this program is not only helping our customers, but it's helping LES. So what this program is geared to do is reduce LES's peak energy, which is going to be during our summer months. And the incentive, we do have an incentive for customers to purchase high efficient equipment. And the incentive, hopefully what we're going to see is offset, some of the added cost to purchase some of that high efficient equipment. Ideally, your heating and cooling system is going to last 15 to 20 years. So with our incentive, we do have an incentives for air conditioners and heat pumps. So an air conditioner, the incentive for high efficient equipment is going to be about $600. So if you're replacing your existing air conditioner, you could probably expect to reduce your cooling costs from 35 to 40%.
That's pretty good.
Now a heat pump, so a heat pump is going to replace your air conditioner, but it's going to do a majority of the heating, but it still needs to have what we call that supplemental heat, which is either going to be an electric furnace or a gas furnace. If you're replacing a heat pump with an air conditioner, replacing a heat pump that has an air conditioner with an electric furnace, you're going to offset your heating costs by about 50%. If you have gas furnace, you can install a heat pump with that. The savings isn't going to be as big, so you're probably looking at about 20%. And then geothermal is another incentive that we do have for customers, and that's going to vary from $550 up to $1,500. And usually, a geothermal is going to be a lot more upfront cost. Yep. So more of our residential customers purchasing air source heat pump or an air conditioner is probably going to be the route to go.
Are you seeing, and I'll throw this at you, are you seeing more houses go all electric versus all gas?
I would say early in the 1990s, 20s, there was a lot of these developments that were going to be all electric. Now what we're starting to see, a lot more apartment complexes being all electric.
Okay.
And ideally, they're going to be installing heat pumps to offset some of that customer cost for their tenants.
I used to work with a builder, and I just thought of that because he was really big into heat pumps, and that was back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Or 1900s, in the 1990s,
Yeah,
I should
yep,
say.
yep.
So I just wondered. So do you have a program then that allows LES to adjust the thermostats during the times of high energy?
So we do. That's going to be our peak reward program.
Okay.
And so the program itself is to assist LES to offset, once again, our summer peak. The program itself is not going to save customers energy when we have what we call a peak event where we're offsetting air conditioning runtime. The savings is going to be in the programming of the thermostat that the customer can lower or raise their temperature, whatever type of season it is. So the savings would be in how they program it.
Okay, so my son lives in Denver, and he put on the solar panels, and he's trying to generate electricity there. So do you have a program here that customers can generate their own power, and is that still an option with a public power facility like that?
Absolutely, it is. We have our net metering program where customers can install solar. We do have, so one thing that I do want to mention is we have a list of what we call participating contractors in our solar program. These contractors are trained on a yearly basis. They're aware of all of our policies, all of our energy rates. We just want to make sure that they're giving the best information regarding solar and how it's going to help customers on their electric bill. So solar, all that it's going to do is going to offset your energy costs. You're still going to have what we talked about earlier. You're still going to have your customer charge and your facility charge. So hopefully what you're going to see is offset on those energy costs.
So, and just as you talk, it makes me think, so you just added a new building not too long ago out at 94th and Yankee Hill. So are you, as Lincoln expands, your facilities have to expand that way too?
You bet. One of the reasons why we built, out southeast of town, and we still have our service center in the middle of town. If you think about, outages, we're moving out there so we can have a quicker, faster response time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I just thought of that. So I've heard that LES will help a customer if they feel they have a certain bill that maybe was higher than expected, like that summer shock, as you might say. How does that work then?
So we do, so if a customer has some questions about their electric bill, they can call us. And in my department, if it gets to us, or if the call center people can't really explain, what's going on, we can always evaluate your customer's electric bill. And one thing that I like to point out to our customers is on your electric bill, there's a graph that will tell you how much energy you used for the last 12 months, and it compares it to the previous year. And that can give you an idea of, is there something going wrong? As a matter of fact, last week I had a customer call, and they just had some concerns with the increased energy use. And by looking at the graph and talking with her, the increase started probably in July last summer. And talking through this process, we determined that her furnace fan was set to on, which basically means it was running 24 hours a day. So that's just a good thing, look at your electric bill, look at that graph. And then if they do need help, give us a call.
Cases like that is when you want to kick yourself. So
Well,
I've been there.
and it happens. It happens. But so just getting used to looking at, things like that, tracking your energy use. So
that kind of, I was going to ask you, how it kind of just what they do on a daily basis. Maybe do look at that graph. If you have questions, do call in. We have a thermostat that what we do is when we were working, we set it down lower during the day, and it kicked on at about 4 or 5 o'clock. Well, my husband was saying how cold he was, and I said, we never changed that thermostat when we went to work. It's 62 degrees back in the house. He said, I'm cold. So other ways like that, they can adjust.
Oh, you bet.
Okay.
You bet.
So they can call you up. So if viewers are struggling to pay their bills, what can they do?
Well, with our new online portal, they have a lot of different options. Let's say you can log on to the portal. There's a couple things you can do. You can defer your payment, extend your bill date, by 7 days, or you have an option of getting a payment arrangement where some of that cost can be deferred out for like 4 different billing cycles.
Okay.
But you can always call LES. You can call LES, we can talk through those options. And if they're having a really difficult time paying bills, we do have some resources that they can call. We do have a partnership with Lancaster Community Partnership, and there are these avenues to get some assistance on paying your electric bill.
And I imagine too, if they could go out maybe and look at your house if you had to, and kind of do an audit. Like if you had a fireplace, make sure the damper's closed.
Oh yeah, sure.
Just point out little things that could make a difference.
Energy savings, during the winter, we recommend about 68 degrees. And my rule of thumb is every degree you lower your thermostat, you're going to save 3 to 5% on your heating cost. Checking windows, making sure they're closed and latched. You just want to reduce any of that air infiltration that's going to come in your home. So on the fire damper, if that is open, after the fire's been extinguished. It's equivalent to having a window open.
Ah.
So not only, you know, the energy savings of heating your home and just making your home most efficient as you can.
I will say too about that latched window. I've shut the windows, but that latched, I can tell the difference in a minute.
Yep.
Anything else you want to include that we haven't talked about? We're about to figure out.
I don't think so. You know, I think we have a good resource of if you have questions, you know, newer technology and things like that.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate to give us a call. You know, if you're thinking about installing a heat pump, you know, what's that going to do on your electric bill? If you have like a gas furnace, it's going to offset some of your gas costs. Your electric's going to go up, but you know, it's things that we can do to provide information for our customers.
Well, thank you today. Thank you for taking time today to come in and talk about this.
Thank you.
I know it's supposed to get cold again this weekend, and winter's not over, but people kind of think after these 50-degree days we're going to have here coming up, but it's going to get cold. So thank you for explaining some ways that customers can save some dollars. So, and thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions about LES, go to their website or give them a call. Please tune in for more segments on topics of interest for seniors. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.